Today we are making lasagna. Friends, this recipe is so easy, and don't click off, we're actually making gluten-free lasagna. Say what? Yes, it is so easy. Well, why do I say it's easy to make when it is not? This recipe is very hard to make. It's gonna take hours, but I promise, friends, it is so delicious. We don't need a lot of ingredients, so let me just show you what we're working with here. We're gonna need flour. I'm gonna link below the flour I recommend. It's obviously gluten-free flour, but this one in particular is my favorite. I'm doing it to serve for 18 servings because we're making a pretty big lasagna. So we're gonna need 6 large eggs. We're gonna need a little bit of salt. I prefer pink salt. If you're using table salt, you're gonna need less. Some extra virgin olive oil and some water. Super easy. So I'm gonna grab my stand mixer for this. I mentioned this in the last recipe video. I love my stand mixer being here. It makes it so easy so I don't have to pick this thing up. It weighs like 50 pounds. Okay, so if you watched my rigatoni recipe, the fresh Italian pasta, the gluten-free pasta, I really screwed it up. I wasn't counting right. So this time, I'm actually gonna use a 1 cup measuring cup. What is this thing called? So we're gonna measure out 6 cups of the flour. So I'm just scooping it in with this other scooper and making a mess as I go. Oh yeah, this is not the way to do it. So we're gonna put 1. 2.5. I'm up to 3, right? Damn it. Yeah. Let's hope this is 3. Tom is here with me today, so it's gonna go a lot faster. Hopefully it's gonna go smoother. 4. Well, how many did I say? 6. You might notice, this is 5, that I'm not measuring this out perfectly, like the way it's recommended when you're using a flour that contains gluten, because the measurements have to be precise. With this, we have a little more wiggle room. Okay, 6 cups. Now we're gonna need 1.5 teaspoons of pink salt. So I'm gonna grab my fancy measuring spoons. One and a half. Now we're going to combine the eggs, the olive oil, and the water in a separate container. So I'm gonna use my pitcher here. Okay, so I'm gonna just crack all 6 of these eggs in here. Grab a whisk. I'm gonna use my mini whisk. Just whisk up these eggs. Now we're gonna add in, we're gonna need 3 tablespoons of olive oil. 1, 2, and we're gonna need 3/4 of a cup of water plus 4 tablespoons for this amount of servings. I'm just gonna whisk that together. Raise it up. We're gonna start it. And now we're simply gonna take all of that egg mixture and just pour it in. I'm gonna add just a drop of water Perfect. Now we're gonna just let it do its thing. You're going to have to scrape down the sides, probably a few times. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can totally make this. I made homemade pasta just using the counter, essentially, and making like a well in the center and slowly adding in the egg mixture, and it worked beautifully. It's really coming together, and at this point, we're gonna finish the rest on the counter. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little bit of the same flour just straight onto the counter. And I'm gonna grab this dough, take my ring off this time, this dough out of here. I am gonna add some olive oil to my hands. Actually, now all we're gonna do is knead this together. I could have continued doing it in the stand mixer, but this I feel like is just easier, and it's this end stage of it that can come together really quickly. And we just got to incorporate all the dough in. Okay, see how nice and smooth this dough is at this point? It looks really well combined. So we're just gonna take a plastic bag, or you can wrap it in plastic wrap if you want. Just put it on in here, and then what we're gonna do is refrigerate this for at least 30 minutes. That's very important. Now I've gotta get started on the sauce. So, who feels like making some delicious meat and sausage sauce? I do. So let me clean the counter off, and then we'll get started. So now we're gonna get the sausage going. So I've got my big pot. I'm just gonna put it over about medium heat. So I've got the sausage that we're using. I grew up eating this, and I really do like it, but of course it does have some chemicals in there. It doesn't have nitrates or nitrites, which is great. It's also gluten-free, which I need, but it has some other stuff in there like BHA, which I don't like, but we're gonna roll with it for Thanksgiving today. So I'm simply gonna place the sausage in. We're using hot Italian sausage, which is my favorite. Cover it and just let it cook just for a few minutes. Starting to brown nicely. We don't have to fully cook these because they're gonna cook on the sauce.
We're working on getting sausage nice and brown. Yeah.
Now I'm gonna just wipe, actually not, I'm gonna cook the meat right in the same thing. So, this is what we're using, just some ground beef. This is grass-fed, grass-finished, which is my favorite. And my favorite is to use a wooden spoon when I'm doing this. And you gotta pay attention to the fact that this pot, this handle is probably very hot. I'm just gonna break up the meat. This is 2 pounds with 85% lean. You could use 90%, you could use 80%. But I definitely recommend grass-fed, grass-finished. Okay. So we're gonna grab some onion powder. I'm eyeballing this, but it's about 1.5 tablespoons. Grabbing some pink salt. And this is about a teaspoon. I love a little bit of parsley in some meatballs, so this is gonna be about a tablespoon of parsley. I'm gonna add a little bit of basil. And I gotta fill up mine, so this is just garlic powder. About 1.5 tablespoons of the garlic powder. And, actually this isn't too hot. We're just looking to get it browned nicely. You don't want it burned, just browned. I do want to add a little bit of black pepper, fresh, about 15 cracks or so. I love to brown the sausage first because then the ground beef will actually take on some of that flavor. I didn't have to add any more oil, I just used what was left in there from the ground beef. Now what we're gonna do, let me turn the stove off. This looks good. I'm gonna do one of my favorite hacks of all time to make my life easier from straining this. I'm simply gonna put a paper towel in here, and using my spoon, I'm gonna just soak up the grease. And of course, be careful. It's hot grease. You don't wanna burn yourself. Okay, now I'm simply going to take the beef and set it aside because we're gonna use the same pot to get the sauce started. My house smells amazing. First I'm gonna get the outside because I dropped some grease, not looking to start a fire, and just simply wipe it out. I love these pans. They are super non-stick. Just look at this, it just makes cleanup a breeze. Okay, looks good. Now what we're gonna do is get the sauce going, and I love, if it's a special occasion, I certainly don't do this every time, but using fresh garlic and onion, it just elevates the dish. But I also don't like chunks. So we're gonna throw this inside of my Vitamix because it's so easy. So before I throw it in the Vitamix, I can't exactly throw this whole onion in there. So I'm gonna chop it up. And this onion is huge, so I'm not gonna use the whole thing. I'm gonna use about half of it. So I'm simply gonna throw it in there. Just want to loosen it up. Trust the process. Now I'm going to we're going to add a little drizzle of olive oil. We are going to take that onion that we just pureed and we're just going to pour it in there. We're not washing this because I also am going to do the tomatoes. For the whole tomatoes, I don't like I don't like chunks, friends. So let me show you what we're doing. So we're going to take this can do it this way. This can of tomatoes, just plop it in there. I've got 3 of these, but I'm going to do one at a time so I don't overload my blender. Perfecto. Give this a little stir. I decided not to puree the garlic like this because I like actually using my garlic press better. So I'm gonna just pull off probably about 7 cloves because I love garlic. Now I actually have 8 cloves because it was the last of it. So now I'm just gonna use my garlic press and just put all of this delicious fresh garlic inside the sauce. really good. Now, we're gonna start adding in that tomato sauce. And I need to puree the rest. So just like before, plop. Okay, so now I'm gonna give it a stir. We're gonna start adding in our dried spices. We're gonna start with basil. It's about 2 tablespoons of basil. Then we're gonna add some bay leaves. Are you team bay leaf, or are you like, there's no flavor? I love bay leaves, so we're gonna do, let's see, 1, bigger one than that. We're gonna do 3 in this because this is a really big pot of sauce. So 3 bay leaves, some parsley, about 2 tablespoons, some pink salt, about 2 teaspoons. I usually put inside of my sauce, I put red pepper flakes, but with all of this spicy sausage, we don't need it. 20 cracks of black pepper. We're gonna use some cane sugar. It really does balance it. I don't have sugar hardly ever, but we're gonna just do about a teaspoon. You could use maple syrup or honey, but this is just easier, and we're gonna stir everything. What's gonna give this sauce the really huge depth of flavor is the meat and the slow cooking process and the fresh onion and garlic. So now what we need to do, boy, I shouldn't have wasted that spoon. We've got, oh, they're all upside down. Okay. We've got tomato paste. I'm using 1 little can for each big can. Tomato paste to me is a non-negotiable with sauce because it just adds a depth of flavor that we're just not gonna get if we don't use it. I also do not brown it first, like some people talk about doing that, because it's cooking in the sauce, so we're good. Pull that off. Okay. Now we're gonna let this just kind of cook down a little bit. Let this tomato sauce kind of blend in. We're gonna add some red wine. I am a fan of wine and sauce, so we're going for about half of a cup, give or take. I didn't grow up doing this. Oops. My grandmother never did wine and sauce, but as soon as I went off on my own, I tried it and I was like, wow, it's gonna smell. It smells really good. Okay. So now we just need to let this warm up, essentially, come together, and then we're gonna put the meat in. Well, this looks good. See how it's all coming together? Okay, we're good to put the meat in. So we're gonna just take all that sausage, set it right on in there. Take our ground beef. It's gonna look like it's hardly gonna fit in this pot, but this is how I roll. I've done this once or twice. Okay, now this just literally has to cook for like at least 2 hours. Not on high. I'm gonna leave it on like medium right now, but I am gonna turn it down once it really starts to boil. Okay, that looks great. We've got 2.5 hours before everybody's coming, so we've got to get this lasagna going. So once again, we're gonna need our stand mixer, but we're gonna need our mat. I will have everything I'm using linked in the description box below if they sell it on Amazon. I need to get this out of the way. Okay, so let me get the rest of our supplies and get the pasta out. So now we're gonna sprinkle some of that flour down, and we're gonna keep some nearby because we're gonna need extra flour without a doubt. So now we're gonna attach our KitchenAid lasagna sheet maker in here, and just like with the other one, it only fits one way. It's like a puzzle piece that oh, well, you have to loosen this first. There we go. And then you want to just make sure it's tight so it doesn't jingle. You want to keep it on the widest setting, which on this, it's 7, okay? Oh. Oh, see, there you go. It's not 7, it's 1. It's 1. You don't want 7. That would be like way too thin. So now we're gonna get started, but Tom is in charge with a lot of this stuff. I just stand around. Cannot recommend these Silpat mats enough. They're so important. This is a lot faster to come together than the rigatoni. Significantly faster. Okay, so just like with the other, we have to add flour. Go by feel, okay? I used to bust out a roller and like not a roller, what is it called? A rolling pin. But I don't feel like we need it. Okay, this is looking good. So we don't want cracks. So, and this is probably too much. Set that aside. I feel like this right here is perfect to start going in the machine. Tom's reminding me. So then you literally just let it do its thing. It is going to need more flour, probably. Maybe not. Literally comes out, and you just have to kind of go by feel for it. Oop. And sometimes that happens. We just roll with it around here. Look at all of this amazing lasagna. It was so fast, the time lapse that we did, we had to turn it off because that's how fast we were. Friends, this is going to be magnificent. Time to start cooking the lasagna. Okay. We don't need this lid. Now we're gonna just start. I like to cook one piece at a time. I got my spider. This is a key tool. And then I have a strainer in my sink. Ready to rinse it in cold water, but we're just letting it float. It's ready. So now we take this. I like to do this so I don't drip water. Just rinse it. Rinse it with cold water to get this extra starch off of it. Perfect. It's okay if it breaks. Some of the pieces are going to break, and that's okay. Then we're going to take our next piece and repeat the process. Grab a hold of this one, drain it. So I'm gonna take our pan and just put some sauce in it for the bottom layer. Trying not to get any of the meat, the ground beef. Like, we don't really want a lot of the ground beef. We just want the sauce, and we don't need a lot. This is about what we're looking for. Okay. Now, we're gonna take the layers that look the worst for the bottom and just kind of judging, like this piece right here, because it's not perfect. This is great. We're just gonna put it in the pan. Okay, and I'm gonna grab the next piece. Remember, we want the ones that don't look perfect. And it doesn't have to be one complete piece. Essentially, you wanna pick the pieces that look the best for the top. Now, that's what I've always done. That's what my grandmother taught me to do way back in the day. Okay, I need one more. This looks good. I'm actually gonna flip it. And if you see like space somewhere, that's where the extra pieces come in. We're just gonna fill it in. Trust me, nobody's gonna know, just you. And you are not ratting me out, right? So now we have our bottom layer in, and now I should have mixed up the ricotta mixture and set everything out. So I'm gonna do that now. Dump the whole thing in there. See you do blow. I'll set this in the fridge too. So we're gonna put one egg inside of the ricotta mixture. It's a trick so that it doesn't get super watery when you're baking it. Okay, now we're getting our lasagna pan back, and we're simply going to, I really need a spoon, not a fork, but we got a time crunch. I'll get one. I'm gonna actually use a spatula. Do we have enough? We have enough, right? We're gonna put a layer of baby spinach. Gotta get your greens in, my friends. We're gonna open up this cheese, this mozzarella. And this comes in slices, so what I'm gonna do is just kind of break it up a little bit. We don't need to pack this thing filled with cheese in every layer, because this is gonna be a lot of layers. It would be overkill otherwise. That was actually a lot of ricotta. But I love the ricotta. I'm gonna grab a handful of the pork. And essentially, I'm thinking about the pieces, where the pieces are. So everybody gets some and it's even. My OCD is coming out right now. I'm looking for shorter pieces. Man, that's just about perfect. I lost one of the pieces of lasagna on the floor. It fell. Yeah, no, this is plenty. Okay. Whoop whoop de doo. Look at this beauty. Okay, now we repeat the process. So now I'm gonna cover the lasagna and we're gonna get it in, because we were supposed to be ready to eat at 3, and what time is it? 3:30. It's 3:30, so it's about right for the Quintana household. You have a pan? Oh, here, babe. Oh! It's gonna track me, not you. Hi, friends. Isn't that hot?
Okay. Trust this aluminum pan.
There goes Tom. He's such a hard worker.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, I did most of it. Okay, Alexa, set a timer for 45 minutes. So now we got to clean up, but first we have some guests. This is the lovely Amber and my oldest Brian. They came to eat and they're hungry right now. It's not ready. So I've got a lot of shit to do. And I've got to get the focaccia cut. So now we pulled it out of the oven. All that's left to do is, of course, to put a layer of cheese on top. So I'm kind of almost like shredding it with my fingers. Wow, look at how good that looks. So, look at this beauty. How is it?
It's amazing.
Delicious.
Let's ask Tom.
It passes.
He's gonna get slapped. So, Felicia, how is that? How's that
Sarah,
lasagna?
this is so wonderful, this lasagna.
Is it good?
Perfect.
How many stars do you give it out of 5?
Mark, this is a 10. Easy. Easy 10. Easily.
In a little bit, Felicia's gonna give us a concert.
Perfect.
If you enjoyed today's super easy recipe, give this video a thumbs up. Share it with anyone that you know that is looking to make gluten-free lasagna that is better than any lasagna you've ever had in your life. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye, friends.